We are live. Welcome, everybody. This is Rich Groves, and I am the co host to a fantastic event happening here in St. Louis in just a few weeks. Gateway to Freedom Real Estate Investor Conference happening, like I said, here in St. Louis, November 4th and 5th. It's the first event of its kind in St. Louis to be held in St. Louis. Usually you'd have to go to Vegas or Miami or Dallas or New York or something like that. LA to get to a real estate investor conference of this magnitude. We have 17 speakers lined up, incredibly successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs who are ready to pour their experience and knowledge into you. We have a series of get to know the speaker segments that we are going to do today. And specifically, the speaker we have lined up today for you is Darren Hoefgen. And let me tell you a little bit about Darren. Darren is no stranger to real estate, and he's no stranger to these conferences because Darren, let me go back a little bit. Darren grew up in a family where his parents built a rental portfolio, had a rental property. So he had a taste early on of what rental property could do for you. He chose the route to go to school and get his degree, get his job, and he actually ended up buying rental properties while he had his job. He even bought a place to move in and began his house hacking as well. And he realized that actually real estate was what he wanted to move into completely. So Darren actually joined a real estate education company, and actually traveled nationally, was a national speaker and mentor. And he took that to the next level and has actually done hundreds of deals in the St. Louis area. And I'm so excited to have Darren on with us today. So I'm going to bring him on and welcome Darren. How are you doing today, sir?
Well, how are you today?
I'm great too. I hope I didn't botch your intro too badly there.
No, it was great. I appreciate it.
No, yeah, great, man. It's a beautiful sunny day today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Finally get a little fall weather here.
Right, exactly. I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Tell me, tell the folks who may not know you, just give us a real quick Cliff Notes version of who Darren Hoefgen is.
Well, I grew up here in St. Louis. What a lot of us do, we never really leave, or if we do, we come back. So grew up here in St. Louis. Parents are still in the house I grew up in, actually, and went to school, kind of started climbing that corporate ladder, realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. And, like you mentioned, got some formal education, and was such a big fan of what I learned and, what the organization was about. I ended up traveling, I think for about 4 years, teaching seminars for them. And, I was on the road 2 to 3 weekends a month doing that for about, I believe almost 4 years. And at the same time, building and growing the business here. Have done a lot of flips. Don't really do a whole lot on the wholesale space. It's just never something that interested me. I did a couple of them, but nothing of any, nothing to brag about by any stretch. But done a lot of flips, and about 6 or 8 years ago, probably a little bit more than that at this point. Started, instead of flipping things and selling them, started holding on to them, and was really kind of doing that BRRRR method, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat method, before that became a big, sexy thing. And and frankly, when the numbers were easier to make it work as well. But been doing that for a while now. Built a property management company to manage all my stuff. Have sold that and partnered and sold that to a good friend of mine, and still work close with him. And now it's about my portfolio and about I'm run a construction company, primarily focused on the rent ready, getting things either turned over or getting things converted into rentals. And we're a licensed plumbing company here in St. Louis as well. So we work on kind of servicing that portfolio and keeping both my stuff and all of our clients' stuff moving forward and performing for them.
That's awesome. That's incredible. That's a wide range, man. That's a wide range of stuff you've done. It really is, and are doing.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying no. So that's something that my mentors and coaches have been trying to be kind of, beat into my head that it's okay to say no to an opportunity if it's not what fits your vision and what your plan is. So I've been working over the last few years to kind of tighten things up and be better about, is that really something I want to do? I can, but should I? Type thing.
Yeah, sure. No, I got you 100% with that. Absolutely. So when you say you had your W-2 job and you realized that wasn't what you wanted to do, and I know you mentioned you got some formal education that really excited you and you joined those folks, but what was it about, or when was it, or was there a light bulb that went off that you realized, you know what, I do want to do real estate full time. That's what I want to do, real estate investing. Was there a time, or what was it that drove you to make that decision?
You know, when went back to school, got my master's, and I kind of had this plan that I was going to, be able to travel the world on the company dime doing stuff. And when, and I'm impatient, type A, it's got to be now, my way's the right way type thing. So when that didn't happen immediately, I was like, well, this kind of sucks. I went and paid all this money and have these student loans, and, I'm doing the same damn thing I was doing last week. Um, and I happened to be, dealing with a personal breakup at that point too, and had moved into a place and had house hacked it. So swung the hammer, went to school, worked my 9 to 5 plus, and then swung the hammer. And that was finishing up at about that same basic timeline. And I was like, this isn't working. I was getting ready to sell it is what it was, is I was getting ready to sell it, and the numbers weren't working. And I realized that, well, crap, I didn't make good investment decisions. I was doing things that I liked because I was living there. I wasn't looking at what the exit was, and that's when I got the training and learned how to run this as a business. And they helped show me how to make better decisions and how to look at things as kind of work the math problem backwards. Basically, what are you going to sell it for? What do you got to put into it? That's what you can pay for it, and your profit. And I started applying that and realized that that was a hell of a lot more fun than sitting in a cube all day long. And it was for me, it was a tough gig. I mean, it was a tough decision in that I had a 6-figure corporate America IT consulting gig. It wasn't particularly hard, and it was, the people I worked with were, decent, were good. I mean, I still have, some connections to them, 15 years later at this point, or 10 years later. But, it just wasn't what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I started, and it's you ever have one of those dreams where you can kind of, I think they're called lucid dreams, where you can kind of see yourself doing things and you can almost have a little bit of control. I can still envision this conversation I had with my boss just like that. And we went out, and they knew what I was doing. They knew I was, towards the end, they knew that I was, building and working on the real estate stuff while doing this 9 to 5. So I met with the boss with the intent to say, you know what, I want to go part-time. I need more time in my real estate gig. And, this whole job thing's kind of getting in the way. And had that conversation with them, and the boss says, well, I can't do that because I'm looking to hire like 2 or 3 more of you. Mm-hmm. And without skipping a beat, without thinking, I just said, well, I'm gonna have to give you my notice then. Ooh. And I did that, and I'm like, oh shit, did that really just come out of my mouth? And it was, it was good. I mean, it was like I gave him 2 months. I had, enough time to finish my plans or whatever I need to do, or get close enough to finish to the plans. I feel like I did a really good job for them to make sure that it got transitioned off, and, left everything there in a very positive way, so that if, in the short term, if I ever needed to come back, I could. And that made me feel better about it.
Okay.
But it was really, the decision was really, it wasn't fulfilling me. It was paying the bills and then some. But it was not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And, I didn't want to see myself 10, 15, 20 years down the road, still sitting in a cube, punching the clock every day, building somebody else's dream. I wanted to it was time for me to take the chance and to build what I wanted for me.
Gotcha. No, I think what you're saying there resonates with so many people that may either watch us live or on replays or whatever. I mean, there's people there that are like stuck in a job they're not happy with, and they've thought of whether it's real estate or some other side hustle they've thought of doing. They'd like to go full time into that, and it's hard, right? You got to make that decision, and sometimes I think I saw a a clip. I'm trying to remember who it was. It may have been, I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. And yeah, I think it was. And he said, you know what? The biggest way to guarantee failure is to have a plan B.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, when
Yep.
you jump all in and there is no plan B, you got to make it work or do something else. But that's awesome. I mean, seriously, I didn't realize that about you. I didn't realize that part that you're like, you know what, it's done. Here's my notice, and oh crap, I didn't realize.
Yeah, I can still replay that, and I mean, it is such a whatever important moment in my life at this point that I can, if I close my eyes and think about it, I mean, I can still hear the sounds in the restaurant. I know exactly where it was. I know exactly what we were eating. I can smell it. It's kind of freaky, and that it really unintentionally turned into, something that really meant a lot to me.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, so let me ask you a couple quick questions. I'm going to ask you a flip side question. It's got flip both sides of the coin, right? So everybody can play their highlight reel, right? You could go out and say, hey, here's all the awesome things I've done or whatever. But I do want to capture that. I'd like to ask you what you feel has been or was or has been or currently is, whatever, your biggest, I guess, your proudest moment as a real estate investor.
Maybe I should have prepped for these questions.
No, I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. Or the one that comes to mind. The one that comes to mind, maybe.
I'm not somebody that, anybody goes back and troll through my years of social media. I'm not somebody you're going to see, big checks or, bragging, what I feel is bragging about stuff. It's just not my personality. One of the things that I was always really proud about when I was flipping houses is that my niche tended to be the first time home buyer things. And so they were smaller houses, and there are a lot of why how I transitioned into rental too, but there were smaller houses and kind of startup-ish neighborhoods kind of thing. And I was always it always felt really good to know that I delivered a solid house, a solid product. And it was probably 90% of the time it was somebody's first house, or they were, just moving in with their spouse, or, there was something big life moment for them too. And they didn't know me from Adam, and we had, 99 times out of 100 never met, but it was just cool to be a part of their moment and their, next chapter of their lives. I mean, I think that was probably it's not like a, holy shit, this is the one story I got to tell everybody about my real estate stuff. It's I got advice from a coach years ago, and the advice his words were, be boring. And as an entrepreneur, I'm like, well, that sucks. The whole point of being the entrepreneur and quitting the 9-to-5 job is so I can do what the hell I want to do and explore and do that kind of. But his advice is really more about being consistent. Do the same things that work over and over. Be consistent about it, and not only will it be good for you, but it'll be good for others. And I feel like that's really what I've done a lot of, and part of my success in real estate was just that. I'm not out looking for big 6-figure checks on deals. I'm not out, I don't need to own the fanciest house on the street, or, the best views, or, anything along those lines. I just want to have consistency. I want my properties to perform. I want them to be in good shape. I want them to be well taken care of. And I know whenever I hand them off to the tenant that they're in good shape and they're solid houses. They may not be amazing,
right,
but that's not what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build things that are consistent and will fulfill a need, right? Everybody, I've had a few people that work with me, a few of my contractor people that have worked with me, that you walk into a house, and as you know, Rich, you can walk into any project, regardless of what your exit is, and it could be a never-ending list of things that you could do, right? I can do this, and you could do this. Oh, you should do that. And it's like, and a lot of my contractor guys, especially ones that have played in the retail space and have been in higher price point properties, they get that mindset of, oh, but you should do this, and you should do that, and you should, but we can't do that.
Right.
We can't do that and provide, could we do it on this one house? Yeah, but that's going to hinder everything else that's going on too.
Yeah.
So we have to make good decisions and be consistent about that, and understand that the houses and the product that we're creating here needs to at least be on level with, if not just a little bit above, the neighborhood we're in.
Yeah.
And we need to remember that as long as we're providing something that is clean and safe and passes occupancy, then regardless of what neighborhood, what price point it is, that's going to be a really nice place and an upgrade from somebody else's current living situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'd love for everybody to live in $5,000 a month rental with a oceanside view, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. I don't do that.
No.
Nobody in St. Louis does that. So you got to keep in mind, and that's one of the things that I think I've been successful at. Is I've got to keep in mind that it's about delivering that consistency and delivering something that is safe and it's going to clearly passes all the inspections, but and ideally has something of value there beyond just the house next door, right. But something that is going to be a good home for a family.
Yeah.
And the better I do at that, the better that family tends to take care of them too.
Yeah.
So it's a mutually beneficial from that perspective.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. No, that's great advice to anybody wanting to get into rental properties, especially. That's great advice. And you're right, and I love that. I love that. You selling this thing, first time home buyers, and they're getting a good solid property, and that's awesome. I mean, that's an awesome thing to do, and you're absolutely right there. Let me ask you on the flip side of that, and we'll make it as hard. If the first thing comes to mind, what would you say your biggest, on the flip side of the coin, what would you say your biggest lesson learned has been as a real estate investor?
Stop chasing squirrels.
Ooh.
Every time probably every time I've lost money on an individual deal or, a partnership or anything, it was because I was convinced, whether I convinced myself or somebody else convinced me, I was convinced that there was a huge upside. And while it's not quite what you do, it's worth it. Mm. And, I've had a couple of really big losses in my career, and both of them, and they were back to back, unfortunately. And both of them they promised big upsides, and they delivered just as big downsides. So, and what hurt was that, the first one, all right, that sucks, but we got number two lined up and we can balance things out. And then number two goes south too. And two big ugly things in a row. And, and I've had partnerships that have done the same thing, that, everything worked well for a while and then it didn't. And, there's a lesson learned there. It's just be aware of when you're going when you're coloring outside the lines. Right. You got to pay way more attention to all the details, and you can't put things on the same level of autopilot as they are when it's your standards.
Right. Good point. That's awesome. I love that. So, the conference is called Gateway to Freedom, right? Mm-hmm. And we got this big, the big word there being freedom, not gateway, unfortunately. The stressed word there, the one we're emphasizing is freedom. How do you define freedom?
For me, it's really the real reason, or the reason I stay, continue to be an entrepreneur instead of go find some. And I say that because some weeks, some days, it's like, what, it'd be a hell of a lot easier if I could just punch out and be done for the day and not worry about this shit anymore. And I think every entrepreneur, no matter what level you're at, has that. Yeah. So I don't feel bad about sharing that. It's not some big secret. It's like some days everything you touch goes to shit. It just happens in everybody's life. So in my mind, though, in freedom is why I continue to be the entrepreneur. It's that I can do what I want to do. Um, and I'm not, for me, it's not, I want to go spend life on the beach, or it's just not me and my personality. I want to go and build things. I want to go and enable people to build their businesses and their careers, and live in good places. And, I want, I mean, I'm not even really, not having kids. I'm not even like so focused on having this big legacy on stuff. I just want to build stuff. I get a big kick out of, I used to get a big kick out of projects done, getting it sold, that type of thing.
Okay.
And now that I've scaled and done a lot more, I get a big kick out of the every year or so when the bank wants updated financial statements.
Yeah.
And running through that and looking at, oh, well, last year I was here, this year I'm here.
Right.
Good year, or, oh, not such a good year, what happened?
Right.
But I get a kick out of that now. That's part of what drives me. But a big part of what drives me and that freedom is I can build businesses in order to help support and grow others.
Yeah.
A big part of, yes, the construction business was about servicing my stuff, but a big part of that was we do things right, and it's historically been hard to find people that do things right. So I wanted to create a place where not only we did things right and we could help other investors that wanted to do things right and not cut corners, but also give a place for the people that did the work to feel proud of what they've done and what they've built, and not have to, part of my role in all of that now is I play, I guess, interference between the guy that's actually swinging the hammer on a day-to-day basis and the client that's not wanting to pay for that, or this is too expensive, or can you cut a corner and all that.
Right.
It that will really, especially if you're the guy doing the work and you feel like your work's being degraded all the time,
Right.
that'll really lower your interest in doing a good job.
Sure.
And for me, I get to play that interference role, and to a certain degree say, no, we're not going to do that, and if that's what you want, you can find somebody else to do it. But that, again, that's back to the freedom that helps me. That's what I like to do. I like to be able to build something and build people up. And the people on the team, whether they're employees or my independent contracting staff or subcontract, whatever,
Right.
I want, I've got the freedom to build this thing how I want it. And what I want is for them to know that they're not just feel, but to know that they're valued and what they do is valued, and not just by me, but by our clients as well. So I get the freedom to do that.
That's awesome. No, I like that a lot. I really do. Now, we mentioned at the top of the little interview here that you were with a nationwide education company and you traveled for 4 years all across the country doing these types of conferences and seminars and things like that. There might be people out there on the fence. They don't know if they should come to a conference like this, or I've been doing this so long, I know everything already. What would you say to either newbies or veterans? What the biggest benefit of going to a conference like this would be?
There's a handful of things that, regardless of what level you're at, that anybody can always improve their game. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been to probably hundreds of conferences, many of which I presented at, I was part of, I was part of the staff of, and there's not a single event or a single conference or a single seminar that I've been to that I didn't pick up at least some bit of information that could help me, or could change the way I think about something, change the way I look at something. And the other big piece is being an entrepreneur can be lonely. And especially as you become more successful, your peer group becomes smaller and smaller. There are fewer and fewer people out there that you can talk to that will get it, right? I can't go to a group of corporate America people and talk about refinancing, $1 million loans. right? They're just not going to get it. They're not going to understand the stress or the problems.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, I can, newbies, well, they can understand concepts, but they don't understand the nuances of what it takes.
Right.
So you need to surround yourself with people that, you can get help from and get advice from and give advice and give help. And it doesn't matter what level you're operating at, you can receive and give, and there'll always be somebody there who is above you in their experience level, and there will always be somebody there that is below you in their experience level. And there's a huge opportunity in learning from everybody there. One of my mentors would always tell me this, and I will never forget, is that you're an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Man.
And if you're new and trying to figure all this stuff out, and you're going to the local RIA meeting that's typically filled with 80% of the same people every month that have never done a deal, but they've been to every meeting for the last 25 years, you're not getting the help you need.
Yeah.
You're not getting the advice and the support you need. You want to be surrounded by people who have been there and done that, and that are at least one step past you in their professional, entrepreneurial path, so that they can help pull you up. And you'll be there and realize that there are a ton of people that are a step below you that you can help pull up. And I learn and get just as much out of teaching other people as I do sitting in the audience and learning.
Yeah. I'm 100% on board with that. Absolutely. I appreciate that perspective. Let me take a real quick break, and then I'll finish up with one last question. But folks, if you are connecting with Darren, you like hearing what he's talking about, you're like, this guy, I can relate to this guy. I like what he's saying. Go out to www.g2free.com. That's G2free.com. Get your tickets, and at checkout, there's a coupon code section there. In that field, type in Darren and get $50 off your ticket, whether it's general admission ticket or VIP ticket. Darren is the code you want to use, and you'll get $50 off. Now, Darren, I've got a comment here. Oh, great comment here from Nick Johnson. There's always great information at these conferences. The Gateway to Freedom Real Estate Investor Conference, November 4th and 5th, will be no exception. I appreciate that support, there, Nick. I appreciate that. Awesome. And Nick, I know he's already got his ticket. He's got his ticket already. So I appreciate him being on here watching this. He wants to get to know you a little bit there, Darren. Who is this Darren Hoefgen guy that I'm going to come listen to?
Who knows?
Yeah, I know, right? So, these little sessions are get to know the speaker. So let me wrap it up with a kind of a get to know question. Outside of your professional life, what's your biggest passion?
That's a terrible question.
Okay.
Because I'm historically all or nothing. There's no middle ground.
Okay.
And that was, that's just how I'm wired, I guess.
Okay.
It's not an entrepreneur thing. I did that when I worked in corporate America, and then I would come home and obsess about whatever the problem was I was trying to solve, and be working on things late at night because I think I can figure it out. And it just so I'm not really great at, and not having kids and stuff too makes it real easy not to have other things that take my attention away from work stuff. So probably in an unhealthy, and I'm not saying this is healthy either.
Okay.
I don't, I'm not saying you should, you guys should all be doing this. But I don't have a whole lot of like, I'm going to go and do, this, go fly fishing because I love to do it, type thing. I like to go and do and experience things. I go through phases, and I haven't in a while, but I go through phases where I'll travel and go in just some random place. I'm trying to get better at some of that balance, and I'm bowling now, of all things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I joined a bowling league as another way to kind of force myself to get out of the work nonstop, and that's turned into a lot of fun. And it's I think it is really a tough. I wish I had like a perfect put a bow on it answer for it.
It's okay. No, we just want to get to know you, man.
I like to I mean, really, one of my most favorite things is to go to a relatively quiet corner bar type place with a small handful of people that I know and just connect. And whether that's friends, it's business, whatever. Just go and spend a couple hours, have a drink, and just get to know people and what it is they're doing. Whether it's whether it's personal or professional, if I know what it is they're doing and what they need, then I can maybe figure out a way that I can help and we can all help each other.
All right, that's awesome. No, I appreciate that. Like I said, it wasn't a trick question. We just wanted to get to know what you like doing. Yeah. No, it's all good, buddy. No, hey, I know you're busy there. Yeah, I appreciate your time today. I really do appreciate you taking some time and spending it with us, so that anybody watching it live or in the replay can get to know Darren Hoefgen. Again, get out there, get your tickets at g2free.com, the number 2 free.com, and at checkout, put in the word Darren, and you get $50 off your ticket, whether it's general admission or VIP. That's Gateway to Freedom, November 4th and 5th, right here in St. Louis. It is open to anybody. That you don't have to be just in St. Louis. You could be anywhere across the country. You will learn a ton at this conference. We have 17 incredible speakers, including Mr. Darren Hoefgen here, who we've just talked to today. Darren, thanks so much for being here, buddy. I really appreciate it, and can't wait to connect with you here pretty soon.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing everybody in about a month.
That's right, buddy. Thank you so much, Darren.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're welcome. Bye.